The sun hadn't yet fully risen over the sleepy suburban street, but I was already halfway through my morning coffee. From the kitchen window, I could see the HOA patrol vehicle creeping slowly past the rows of identical houses, its blinking yellow light casting eerie flashes against freshly painted fences. I sighed, knowing today wasn't going to be peaceful. This wasn't new. Our HOA had been escalating things lately, overreaching, enforcing absurd rules, and harassing homeowners. But something felt different this morning. My name's David Klein. I'm a retired systems engineer, the kind of guy who prefers quiet mornings and strong coffee. But my wife? That's another story. Naomi doesn't do quiet. She does calculated, disciplined, and ruthlessly prepared. She's the kind of woman who could dismantle an argument or a man in 3 sentences flat. Or 3 seconds, if it came to that. To most people on this block, she's just Naomi. My brilliant, reserved wife who works from her private office in our backyard's converted studio. What they don't know, and what I've never told anyone, is that before moving here, Naomi spent 20 years as a force commander in Israel's elite counterterrorism unit, Sayeret Matkal. The office door is always locked. Naomi keeps it that way. Inside are encrypted files, secured communication gear, and sensitive documents tied to her private consultancy work with defense agencies. She doesn't talk about it. She doesn't need to. She's the kind of woman whose silence makes men nervous. And today, that silence was about to make some fake cops very nervous. At 7:48 a.m. sharp, I saw them coming. 2 men in knockoff tactical vests stepped out of a black SUV with a magnetic HOA enforcement sticker slapped on the door. One had mirrored sunglasses and a smug grin, the other clutched a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. They marched right up our driveway like they owned the place. Naomi had just stepped out of the studio office, a towel draped around her neck after her morning workout. Her face was calm, unreadable, as always. She didn't flinch when they approached. I set my mug down and opened the door, just in time to hear the taller one bark out, "Ma'am, we're here on official HOA business. We received a report that your detached office may be violating external access compliance codes." Naomi didn't even blink. "This property is zoned residential with private workspace. My permits are in order. You're trespassing." The shorter man stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "We have authority to inspect all secondary structures." "Open it. Now." That's when I knew they were bluffing. Even a real cop would need a warrant to demand that. And these two? Their gear didn't even match. One had cargo pants tucked into hiking boots. The other wore sneakers. Naomi's eyes narrowed. I was livid. But powerless from across the world. I contacted my cousin Lisa, my designated emergency contact, and she tried knocking on the door. No answer. She left a note and called the HOA. This time, no response. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. The hardest part about being deployed isn't the heat, the gear, or even the danger. It's the helplessness. Knowing your world can fall apart back home and you're stuck halfway across the planet. My blood boiled daily. Every time I closed my eyes to rest, I saw strangers sleeping in my bed, digging through my drawers, using the backyard grill I'd installed with my own hands. I contacted JAG Military Legal and explained everything. They told me the civil side could wait until I returned, but I needed to document everything. So I did. Screenshots. Testimonies. Photos from Mike. Notes from Mrs. Culver. I even pulled my home's smart camera records remotely, though the feed had gone dead, ***, probably disconnected, ***. Then came the final straw. Month 7. Ruiz handed me his phone with a grin. Bro, is this your house? He'd stumbled across a TikTok of some 20-something influencer doing a house tour of an Airbnb she was staying at ***, my house, ***, my walls. My kitchen. My custom flag display on the mantle blurred out in the background. The caption read, "Cutest Airbnb in Houston. Pool table, grill, and adorable military theme." I damn near exploded. That's when the tone of my deployment shifted. I wasn't just angry, I was building something. I started sketching out plans, operation codes, communication channels. My leave was just weeks away, and I made sure my commanding officer signed off on it. When the date hit, I didn't sleep on the plane. I just stared out the window, rehearsing what would come next. By the time my boots hit American soil, Operation Takeback was already in motion. I landed at Houston International on a humid Thursday evening. A car picked me up, driven by Mike. And we drove straight to my neighborhood. No detour. No food stop. I didn't want comfort, I wanted answers. As we approached the house, I spotted unfamiliar cars in the driveway. A blue SUV. A minivan. There were balloons tied to the mailbox. Is it someone's birthday? I asked, jaw clenched. Mike laughed dryly. Looks like someone's making money off your mortgage. I walked straight to the front door and knocked. A teenage girl answered. Can I help you? I live here. She blinked. No, you don't. This is an Airbnb. My hands curled into fists at my sides. Get your things. You have 10 minutes. Of course, she didn't take me seriously. Her dad showed up, angry and confused. I explained. He didn't believe me until I pulled out my deed, military ID, deployment orders, and a flash drive full of evidence. He backed down fast. We'll leave. I'm so sorry. The guy said it was legit. I let them leave. They were just pawns. But the one who rented it. I was livid. But powerless from across the world. I contacted my cousin Lisa, my designated emergency contact, and she tried knocking on the door. No answer. She left a note and called the HOA. This time, no response. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. The hardest part about being deployed isn't the heat, the gear, or even the danger. It's the helplessness. Knowing your world can fall apart back home and you're stuck halfway across the planet. My blood boiled daily. Every time I closed my eyes to rest, I saw strangers sleeping in my bed, digging through my drawers, using the backyard grill I'd installed with my own hands. I contacted JAG Military Legal and explained everything. They told me the civil side could wait until I returned, but I needed to document everything. So I did. Screenshots. Testimonies. Photos from Mike. Notes from Mrs. Culver. I even pulled my home smart camera records remotely, though the feed had gone dead ***, probably ***. Then came the final straw. Month 7. Ruiz handed me his phone with a grin. Bro, is this your house? He'd stumbled across a TikTok of some 20-something influencer doing a house tour of an Airbnb she was staying at ***, my house ***, my walls. My kitchen. My custom flag display on the mantle blurred out in the background. The caption read, "Cutest Airbnb in Houston. Pool table, grill, and adorable military theme." I damn near exploded. That's when the tone of my deployment shifted. I wasn't just angry, I was building something. I started sketching out plans. Operation codes. Communication channels. My leave was just weeks away, and I made sure my commanding officer signed off on it. When the date hit, I didn't sleep on the plane. I just stared out the window, rehearsing what would come next. By the time my boots hit American soil, Operation Takeback was already in motion. I landed at Houston International on a humid Thursday evening. A car picked me up, driven by Mike. And we drove straight to my neighborhood. No detour. No food stop. I didn't want comfort, I wanted answers. As we approached the house, I spotted unfamiliar cars in the driveway. A blue SUV. A minivan. There were balloons tied to the mailbox. Is it someone's birthday? I asked, jaw clenched. Mike laughed dryly. Looks like someone's making money off your mortgage. I walked straight to the front door and knocked. A teenage girl answered. Can I help you? I live here. She blinked. No, you don't. This is an Airbnb. My hands curled into fists at my sides. Get your things. You have 10 minutes. Of course, she didn't take me seriously. Her dad showed up, angry and confused. I explained. He didn't believe me until I pulled out my deed, military ID, deployment orders, and a flash drive full of evidence. He backed down fast. We'll leave. I'm so sorry. The guy said it was legit. I let them leave. They were just pawns. But the one who rented it. Suspicious activity ***. It's a strange feeling standing in your own home and realizing it's no longer yours, not in the way it used to be. Every object was where I left it, yet everything felt off. My couch had wine stains. My military medals had been moved. The kitchen smelled like old takeout and cheap air freshener. In the guest room, I found glitter stuck to the carpet. In the master bedroom, a pillowcase was missing. And in the backyard? My smoker grill was gone. I didn't need a sign to tell me what had happened. They had been living here. Partying here. Sleeping in my bed, ***. But it was worse than just renters. These weren't just one-off squatters or opportunists. This was organized. My home had been turned into a fully functioning Airbnb rental with new towels, a digital keypad lock on the front door, and a laminated welcome sign that read, ** enjoy your stay. Wi-Fi password, HOA 2025. **. And I knew exactly who was behind it. Lance Broderick, ***, HOA president. The grinning, loafers without socks type who always called me bud even though we'd barely spoken. The guy who'd emailed me months ago with that vague all is well message while my house was being passed around like a timeshare. He was going to regret every second of this. That night, I called Lisa, my cousin, an emergency contact. She came over with a box of documents she'd kept while I was away. She tried to stop it, tried to follow up with the HOA, but Lance had dodged every call. I even sent him certified mail, she said. He never responded. Then suddenly people were in the house. I thought maybe you changed your mind. I didn't. She frowned. I know. I didn't know what else to do. I took the blame off her shoulders. This wasn't her fault. It was mine for trusting the HOA in the first place. But not anymore. I spent the next day going full recon mode. Military instincts kicked in. I wanted intel, and lots of it. Lisa and Mike helped me comb through everything: neighbors, surveillance, digital footprints, HOA paperwork, and more. And that's when the weird pattern began to emerge. My Ring camera history had been deleted remotely. My HOA account had been locked and then re-registered under a temporary access password. My mail was being redirected to a P.O. box 2 towns over. That last one? I didn't even authorize it. Which meant someone had filed a change of address form in my name. Fraud. Mike found the biggest red flag while searching online vacation rental listings. Dude, you're gonna wanna see this. He showed me a listing on a rental app I'd never even heard of. But the photos were unmistakable. It was my home, ***. Under the name, Lance's Urban Getaway, Quiet Neighborhood, Military Theme. That's when everything became crystal clear. Lance hadn't just rented out my home. He'd been doing it consistently. Probably earning thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. And worse. He'd done it under the. I was able to trace some PayPal and Venmo transactions tied to the rental listings. All payments funneled into an LLC, Broderick Community Solutions. Sounds fancy, right? Except it didn't legally exist. No state filing. No tax ID. Nothing. Just a name he used to make things look official. Lisa emailed screenshots to a friend in the DA's office. We weren't pressing charges yet, but we wanted them watching. Then, I made a folder, labeled the package, and filled it with photos of unauthorized guests inside my house, copies of emails and messages from Lance, HOA charter violations highlighted, fake lease documents, social media screenshots with guest reviews, drone footage of my driveway with rotating cars. I printed 5 copies. One for me, one for the DA, one for the police, one for the HOA, and one for Lance because I wanted to hand it to him myself. But before that, it was time to prepare the battlefield. Mike said it best. If they used your house for a business, treat it like a crime scene. So we brought in more of the platoon, some in law, some in private security. We documented every square inch of the house. Fingerprints, trash, water usage bills, surveillance footage from neighbors. Then I had my security buddy install new locks, camera systems, and a silent alarm. Because deep down, I knew Lance wasn't going to walk away quietly. Monday morning, I paid a visit to the HOA office. This time I didn't knock. I walked in like I owned the place, which, technically, I did. As a dues-paying homeowner, I had full access. Lance was there, sipping coffee, tapping on his laptop like nothing was wrong. "Jackson," he said coolly, "thought about my offer?" I dropped the package on his desk with a thud. "No need," I said. "I brought you a better one." He opened the folder, eyes flicking down the list. As he flipped through page after page of evidence, the smugness drained from his face like someone flipped a switch. "You've been busy," he muttered. "No," I said. "I've been thorough." Then I leaned in close. "You have 48 hours to vacate every illegal tenant, submit a formal apology to every affected homeowner, and resign from the HOA board. If not, this file goes public." He blinked. "You wouldn't dare." I smiled. "Try me." 2 hours later, we got word the listings were being taken down. A U-Haul showed up at one of the other houses that evening. The guests were packing up. Fast. But I wasn't convinced it was over. Because as every soldier knows, when the enemy retreats quietly, they're usually regrouping. So I stayed on alert. I had my house. I had my people. And now, I had the paper trail to take them all down, absolutely. Here's Chapter 5, the operation from your story. HOA rented out my home while I was deployed, so my platoon took it back by force. Written in vivid paragraph format. In this chapter, the action ramps up as your team prepares to strike back with the Operation ***. We called it Operation Homefront, our unofficial mission to take back what was mine and expose the rot buried deep in the heart of my neighborhood. The funny thing about being in the military is that we're trained to stay calm in chaos. But coming home to find my house turned into a cash cow by a greasy HOA president? That had my blood boiling hotter than a desert convoy. Still, I didn't want revenge. Not exactly. I wanted justice, and I wanted to make sure no one else was ever blindsided like this again. So I gathered the crew. 6 of us in total. All former or current military. 1 worked security detail for a U.S. senator. 1 was an attorney. 2 were in private contracting. 1, Mike, had just returned from a logistics tour. And me? I had my training, my intel, and a hell of a grudge. We met in my garage, now fully transformed into Command Central. A map of the neighborhood sat pinned to a corkboard. Each property color-coded. Blue for safe homes, red for potential HOA abuse targets. My place was in black marker, ground zero. On the whiteboard were bullet points. Objective 1 ***, restore full control over my property. Objective 2 ***, legally expose and dismantle the HOA leadership. Objective 3 ***, inform and unite the affected neighbors. Objective 4 ***, ensure no deployed service member ever gets screwed over again. Simple, Mike muttered. This guy messed with the wrong damn soldier. Phase 1, Evidence Reinforcement ***. The lawyer in our group, Carter, helped us compile everything into a legal assault package. He'd once worked on real estate fraud cases, so he knew exactly what courts wanted to see. We notarized every photo, backed up every screenshot, created a secure drive. We even printed hard copies and organized them into categories: financial fraud, forgery, property misuse, unauthorized rentals, identity theft. Carter drafted a cease and desist letter so sharp it could have sliced Lance's loafers in half. Addressed directly to the HOA board, the letter detailed every violation and demanded Lance's immediate resignation, along with reparations for every affected homeowner. Phase 2, Tactical Awareness ***. That weekend, we split into pairs and canvassed the neighborhood. Quietly. Casually. While Mike talked with the older couple on the corner, both veterans themselves, I walked down the block to chat with families who'd kept their distance during my deployment. Turns out, they weren't fans of Lance either. He fined me for my mailbox paint being faded, one guy said. He threatened to have my car towed during a birthday party, said another. And then came the biggest reveal: an elderly woman named Mrs. Phelps, whose son was also in the Navy, told me Lance had tried to get into her backyard, claiming she had an unregistered pool heater. That was the pattern. Lance pushed where he thought people were vulnerable ***, quiet, compliant, or absent ***. NT. It was illegal, I said. You're trespassing. They left without a fight, apologizing the whole way. After that, I posted a large red sign on the fence. Property under federal investigation. Trespassers will be reported ***. Yes, it was technically true. Carter had filed a formal fraud report with the state. Phase 4, Exposure ***. We sent the cease and desist letter and full documentation packet to the HOA board, the district attorney, local news tip lines, the state HOA oversight committee. Then, we held a community truth night. Using a foldable canopy, a projector, and chairs borrowed from neighbors, we set up outside my garage and invited the entire block to a special homeowner briefing. About 40 people showed up. Some with arms crossed, unsure. Others with notepads. We played a slideshow of what had happened: the rentals, the lease documents, the Airbnb reviews, the footage of unknown people partying in my yard. Gasps. Murmurs. One woman started crying. Then I stood in front and said, if this could happen to a deployed soldier, what do you think he'll do to you while you're on vacation? That hit hard. By the time the night ended, 10 homeowners signed a joint petition to remove Lance from the board. Phase 5, Lockdown ***. To ensure there were no more unauthorized visitors, we installed a full smart home system: cameras, alarms, motion sensors. The front and back doors were outfitted with deadbolts. Windows reinforced. Mike set up a motion-triggered spotlight and a siren system. If anyone else tries to get in, he said, they'll light up like a Christmas tree. The final piece? I filed a restraining order against Lance, citing unauthorized entry and fraud. By the end of the week, everything was in place. The house was secured. The neighbors were awake. The documents were filed. All that remained now? Confronting Lance ***. Face to face. No escape. He'd stolen my peace, my property, and my trust. Now I was about to take it all back *** by force, if necessary ***. Great, here's Chapter 7, the showdown from your story ***. HOA rented out my home while I was deployed, so my platoon took it back by force. Written in full cinematic paragraph format. This is where it all comes to a head. Chapter 7, the showdown. The HOA board met every second Thursday of the month in the rec center near the tennis courts, same room where Karen once got into a shouting match over Rosebush Heights. Normally, fewer than 5 people showed up. This time? It was standing room only. Word had spread. Neighbors packed into the beige-walled meeting room, murmuring among themselves, all eyes darting toward the door. I stood at the back with Mike, Carter, Lisa, and two of our military buddies. We weren't just here to attend. We were here to expose the enemy. Lance Broderick strutted in 10 minutes late, wearing that same smug grin and a navy blazer over a graphic tee that. "Wow, full house," he said, grabbing the mic from the podium. "Guess we've got a big turnout for the landscaping budget." He chuckled alone. I stepped forward, a manila folder tucked under my arm. "Actually, we're here to discuss fraud, theft, and abuse of power." Silence swept the room. Lance froze. A few neighbors turned toward me, whispering. Some had only heard rumors. Now they were about to get facts. I walked to the front of the room and handed Lisa a flash drive. She plugged it into the projector while Carter passed out printed packets to each board member and several residents. On the screen behind us, the first slide appeared. Evidence of unauthorized rentals, property of Staff Sergeant Jackson Clay ****. I stepped to the mic and cleared my throat. For 9 months, I was deployed overseas, serving this country. While I was gone, the man behind me, I pointed at Lance, used my home without my consent, forged my identity, and profited off my property. And it wasn't just me. I clicked to the next slide, photos of 3 other local homes. Screenshots of Airbnb listings. Dates. Rates. This wasn't an accident. This was a system. A scam. Gasps filled the room. A woman in the front row raised her hand. "My son's deployed too," she said. "You're telling me this could have happened to him?" I nodded. "It almost certainly has. Unless we stop it now." Lance tried to interrupt. "Let's all calm down." "No," Carter snapped, standing. "You'll speak when spoken to. You're under investigation." He dropped a printed packet in front of Lance. "Cease and desist order. You violated Civil Code, HOA bylaws, state law, and federal protections for deployed service members under the SCRA." Lance looked up, pale now. This is ridiculous." "You forged a lease under a fake name," I said. "We have copies." "I was acting in the best interest of the neighborhood," he muttered. "Unused homes attract crime." Mike stepped forward. "So you committed one to prevent one?" The crowd broke into quiet murmurs of agreement. Then Lisa played the final clip, drone footage of Lance inspecting my backyard during one of the illegal rentals, clipboard in hand, walking the perimeter like he owned the place. It was the nail in the coffin. The room erupted. "Kick him out. He's been charging me bogus fines. He threatened to report me for putting up Christmas lights early." Residents stood up. Demanded action. I looked at the current board members, 4 of them, stunned and silent. One lady whispered, "I never agreed to this." Carter addressed the board. "You have 2 choices, remove him from his position effective immediately, or we'll file a class action suit. Multiple homeowners are ready to testify, and law enforcement has been notified." That did it. One by one, the board members raised their hands. I. Just like that, Lance Broderick was stripped of his title. He stood there, eyes darting, lip.
The storm returns ****. Lightning cracked across the sky with a sound like splitting wood. Storm season had come early to Evermere. Rain pounded the rooftops, trees groaned in the wind, and the lake, usually serene, heaved with dark, violent swells. Power flickered across the town. Flashlights came out. Emergency radios hummed. Ethan stood at the window of his cabin, eyes fixed on the lake. He wasn't afraid of storms, not anymore. Not since the one that had changed his life. But something about this one felt different. More than weather. It felt like a reckoning. Across the lake, Cassandra Lowell stood in her father's old study, surrounded by dusty ledgers and forgotten files. She had spent the last 3 nights reading every contract, every deed, every piece of correspondence tied to their legacy. The truth she found wasn't just inconvenient. It was damning. Her father had done more than silence rivals, he'd falsified records. Paid off surveyors. Annexed land that had never legally been his. And it had all been covered by charm, influence, and intimidation. She sank into the leather chair, the storm rattling the windows. Everything she had fought for, might be built on lies. And Ethan knew it. The next morning, the lake was glass again. But the storm hadn't truly passed. At the Evermere courthouse, Cassandra filed a motion to block Ethan's boardwalk project. Her claim: environmental concern, community disruption, historical preservation. Privately, she knew it was a stalling tactic. But publicly, it was war. Ethan's attorney, a soft-spoken man named Leo Granger, met him in the cabin just after noon. "She's coming hard," Leo said, setting a briefcase on the table. "The injunction hearing is in 5 days. You're going to need to show cause, historic ownership, community benefit, all of it." "I have it," Ethan said. "Every document. Every photo. Every statement." Leo nodded. "Then get ready. Because this is the beginning of the end." Meanwhile, the townspeople began to fracture. Some sided with Cassandra, citing tradition, family loyalty, and the fear of change. Others, inspired by Ethan's quiet resilience and transparency, began to rally behind him. Petitions appeared on both sides. Protests. Flyers. The lake had never felt so split. On the 5th day, the storm came back. Rain poured as the courthouse filled. Cassandra entered with Marina and Bennett, dressed in black, her expression unreadable. Ethan arrived alone. The judge, a stern woman named Honora Vexley, took the bench and immediately demanded clarity. "Ms. Lowell, your motion claims the boardwalk project threatens the environmental integrity of Lake Evermere. Do you have supporting evidence?" Cassandra stood. Her voice was cool, steady. "Yes, Your Honor. We have water sample reports, shoreline erosion projections, and expert testimony ready to speak to the irreversible harm this expansion may cause." The judge turned. "Mr. Rhodes?" Ethan approached the podium. "Your Honor, I have 2 documents to submit. One is a 1974 township report confirming the boardwalk as a protected civic amenity. The second is a deed, signed by the original trust holder, granting its stewardship to my grandfather, under the condition it remain publicly beneficial." He paused. "I'm not building a hotel. I'm restoring what was forgotten." The courtroom was silent. The judge recessed for deliberation. Cassandra sat frozen, hands tight in her lap. "Even if we win this," Marina whispered, "he's shifting public opinion." "I don't care about public opinion," Cassandra said. But she did. More than she wanted to admit. Because deep down, a small voice inside her had begun to whisper, "What if he's right?" The verdict came just after dusk. In reviewing the submitted materials and precedents, this court finds insufficient grounds for injunction. Mr. Rhodes is permitted to proceed with the boardwalk restoration, under standard environmental oversight. The gavel fell. Ethan exhaled. Cassandra didn't move. That night, thunder returned. And Cassandra stood at the end of her private dock, the wind ripping through her coat, hair lashing her face. Across the water, lights glowed in Ethan's cabin. She raised her voice into the wind. "You want to rebuild this lake," she shouted. "Then do it. But know this, Evermere remembers everything." And somewhere beneath the dark water, the lake listened. Chapter 8, Lines in the Water ****. The sun rose blood orange the next morning, casting a strange glow across Lake Evermere. Ethan stood on the newly restored boardwalk, the wind tugging at his jacket as he watched construction crews begin the next phase. Planks were being replaced. Railing posts sanded and stained. The old bell tower was going up again, restored by hand, exactly as it had once stood. It wasn't just cosmetic. It was memory. Every board nailed down was a stitch in time, binding past to present. But across the lake, battle lines were sharpening. Cassandra Lowell summoned the full force of the Lowell legacy. She hosted a town hall at the Evermere Yacht Club, velvet drapes, crystal pitchers, catered hors d'oeuvres. Marina stood by the projector. Bennett handed out glossy pamphlets titled, "Preserve Our Lake, the Lowell Foundation Plan." Cassandra stood before the crowd, radiant in a white suit. "I understand this lake. My family made this lake," she began. "We've kept it safe, prosperous, and beautiful for over 70 years. Now, someone wants to rewrite that history under the guise of restoration. But make no mistake, this is about control." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Cassandra continued. "Which is why we propose the Evermere. The final offer. They say everyone's got a price." The men from the HOA believed it. The developers swore by it. Even the county tried to convince Cole Granger of it. But no one understood what Granger Ranch really meant to Cole, or what it had already cost him. The water war hadn't broken him. The paperwork campaign hadn't scared him. The illegal fencing only made him louder. So the HOA changed tactics. They decided to buy his silence. A stranger in a black SUV. The day started like most on the ranch, dusty, quiet, with the sun spilling slow over the ridge. Cole was repairing an old irrigation line behind the barn when Boone started barking at the front gate. Not a warning bark, an alert. Cole wiped sweat from his brow and stood up just as a sleek black Cadillac SUV pulled up, its tires crunching slow against the gravel. A man stepped out. Slick gray suit. Black shoes. No tie. Late 40s. Tan but pale around the eyes, like someone who spent more time indoors than in the field. He didn't introduce himself. Just nodded and said, "Mr. Granger. May I have a word?" The suit's pitch. They sat under the shaded awning of Cole's front porch. Boone didn't take his eyes off the man for a second. The stranger set a leather folder on the table and opened it like it was a treasure chest. "This is our final offer," he said. Inside, a cashier's check. Amount, $2.5 million. Next to it, a 2-page buyout agreement. Clean. No legal jargon. Just a promise to leave Cole alone, buy him out, and even name a street after the Granger legacy. Cole didn't touch the paper. "You think my land's worth $2.5 million? The man smiled. "Your land?" "No. The silence. The compliance. The removal of the problem." "You mean me." "I mean the image of you. This, cowboy. The barricades. The noise. It's not sustainable, Mr. Granger. Eventually, every nail bends." Cole leaned forward. "I don't bend." The warning. The man's smile faded. "Let me be clear," he said, folding the check back into the folder. "The board is prepared to escalate. We have friends in Austin. In zoning. In D.C. If this goes further." He let the sentence hang. "You'll what? Take more roads? Cut more wires?" "No," the man said calmly. "We'll condemn it." Cole raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" "Public safety," the man said. "Gunfire. Activity. Noise. Justifications can be built. You'll be declared a nuisance." Cole's face didn't change. "You know what I see when I look at you," he said. "What's that?" "A man who's about to regret assuming I'm bluffing." The call to Emily. As soon as the SUV disappeared over the hill, Cole called Emily. He made a threat. A verbal one. Cole recounted the whole thing. I'm not surprised, Emily said. They're laying the groundwork to condemn your land as a public risk. It's weak, but in the wrong court, it could work. What do I do? Build something they can't condemn, she replied. Something protected. Like a school. Emily was quiet for a second. Then she said, no, like a defensive training facility, it's legal. Federally recognized. Veteran run. And they can't touch it if it's registered right. Cole sat back, blinking slowly. You just gave me one hell of an idea. The blueprint. That night, Cole spread maps and permits across the kitchen table. He called Red Hawk Tactical, a self-defense training group he'd once volunteered with in El Paso. Y'all still running mobile courses? Yep. Why? I want to offer you a permanent site. 100 acres. On the border. Real terrain. Gun rights friendly. Patriot owned. Silence. Then, you serious? I've never been more serious in my life. By the next morning, Red Hawk confirmed. If Cole could pass zoning, they'd back him, financially and publicly. Cole called Emily again. Draw up the paperwork. I'm opening a gun range. The incident at the fence. 2 nights later, just after sundown, Boone barked again. But this time it wasn't an SUV. It was a truck, unmarked parked near the north fence. Cole grabbed his rifle, flipped on the tower's floodlights, and scanned the field. 2 figures in dark clothing were crouched near the fencing. One was holding wire cutters. Hey! Cole shouted. The men bolted. Cole fired a single shot, into the air. He didn't want to hit anyone. But he wanted them to know he was awake. The next morning, he found the corner post had been sawed halfway through. They were trying to collapse his fence. Emily filed a police report. Sheriff Daniel showed up personally. This is war now, the sheriff said. You want protection, you got it. The gun range announcement. Cole stood on his ridge the next morning, staring out across the pasture. Camera in hand. He hit record. They tried to find me. Fence me. Drain me. Now they want to buy me out. They say I'm the threat. But I've never threatened anything but lies. So here's my answer. Granger Ranch is becoming a licensed self-defense training center. Greater than 100% legal. 100% free. 100% American. And we're not moving. The video hit 1 million views in under a week. HOA backlash. The HOA responded the only way they knew how. They mailed a new round of fines. Here is. Chapter 6, Locked and Loaded. From the story. HOA tried to starve me out of my ranch, so I opened a gun range on the border. Approximate, 5,000 words, Chapter 6. Hashtag Chapter 6, Locked and Loaded. Dust curled off the earth like smoke as a line of trucks rolled down the gravel drive of Granger Ranch. Each one bore a familiar decal, Red Hawk Tactical. Inside those vehicles sat instructors, range designers, veterans, and legal reps, people who'd seen war. People who respected land. People who knew what it meant when a man dug in. Cole watched from the front porch as Boone barked once, then lay still, a quiet signal that they'd made it. The time for threats was over. Now, it was time to build. Hashtag the gun range begins. They started early that morning. The Red Hawk crew, along with a handful of local volunteers, ranchers, friends, a couple ex-military neighbors, gathered on the east field, about 25 acres just past the cattle line. This was where the new Granger Tactical Training Center would rise. Not a commercial gun range. Not a for-profit shooting park. A federally compliant, veteran-run, rural defense school, registered under Texas statutes, with training modules covering firearms safety, livestock defense, perimeter security, survival under siege, constitutional land rights. By sunset, the crew had marked the firing lanes, poured the first slab for the lodge building, and begun installing a solar backup grid. Cole had never seen a team move so fast with such quiet purpose. ###### legal cover. Emily arrived that afternoon with a thick folder of paperwork, a full binder of legal protections, permits, insurance, and registration forms. Once the sheriff co-signs this, she said, they can't touch you. Not the HOA. Not the county. Not even the feds. Cole nodded. He had to admit, part of him hadn't believed it would get this far. But seeing men and women welding frames for target bays, pouring gravel for range floors, and erecting bullet berms made it real. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was building something unbreakable. #######HOA spy caught. 3 days into construction, Boone started growling just after dusk. Cole grabbed the thermal scope and scanned the brush near the west ridge. A heat signature popped up, human-sized, crouched behind mesquite. Cole approached slowly, flanked by 2 Red Hawk instructors. They caught the man filming with a GoPro and trying to slip back toward the Rio Vista fence line. He had a company badge. Rio Vista Security Services, ****. The man claimed he was documenting noise complaints. Cole confiscated the camera, handed it to Sheriff Daniels the next morning, and filed a formal trespass charge. No arrest, but the HOA's surveillance tactics were now public record. The local news picked it up under the headline. **** Rancher's gun range spied on by HOA contractor. ***. It didn't look good. Final scene, night shift. That night, Cole sat on the ridge again. The stars were bright. The range lights buzzed faintly in the background. He sipped his coffee and looked across the dark valley. He thought of his father, his grandfather, and the land that tied them all together. Boone curled at his feet, tail still. And Cole whispered. They came for my land. They came for my peace. All they did, was remind me who I am. Would you like to continue with Chapter 7, They Tried to Sue Me into Silence, next? Cole confiscated the camera, handed it to Sheriff Daniels the next morning, and filed a formal trespass charge. No arrest, but the HOA's surveillance tactics were now public record. The local news picked it up under the headline. **** Rancher's gun range spied on by HOA contractor. ***. It didn't look good. The wall of flags. As construction continued, Cole installed 10 flagpoles at the training center entrance. Each flag represented something. U.S. flag. Texas flag. Pauamae. Granger Ranch. Veteran Land Guard. Rancher Rights Coalition. Border Watch. Second Amendment. Local Sheriff's Department. And a new one, HOA Free Zone. A statement. A warning. And a message to every homeowner across the country who felt cornered. You don't have to move. You don't have to fold. You don't have to sell. HOA's emergency meeting. Across the fence, the Rio Vista board was panicking. Internal memos leaked to the media. We didn't anticipate national press. Can we request federal intervention? This could spread to other communities. One email, addressed to the HOA president, read. ***, we underestimated Mr. Granger. This is now bigger than real estate. ***. They tried to get a temporary injunction to halt construction. The judge denied it. The land is legally his, she ruled. The permits are valid. The activity is protected. Range grand opening. 2 weeks later, the range officially opened. Local press, YouTubers, Second Amendment groups, even 3 state lawmakers came to the launch event. Cole stood at the gate wearing jeans, boots, and a clean button-down shirt. His father's belt buckle glinted under the Texas sun. He didn't give a long speech. Just one line. "This isn't about guns. It's about grit. And we've still got it." Then the first volley of test shots echoed through the desert. It was loud. Legal. Proud. And it carried across every inch of Rio Vista. The petition to silence. The HOA responded fast. They circulated a petition to the county demanding noise reduction mandates, limited shooting hours, fines for auditory disruption. They needed 500 signatures. They got 143. And 38 of them were from fake addresses. Sheriff Daniels laughed when he saw it. They can't even cheat right. Federal backing. The big win came in week 4. Red Hawk received an email from the Department of Homeland Security approving Granger Ranch as. They tried to sue me into silence. If the fences couldn't hold him, the lies couldn't shame him, and the checks couldn't buy him, then maybe, just maybe, a courtroom could bury him. That was the HOA's new strategy. Because what bullets couldn't do, maybe lawsuits could. And this time, they weren't holding back. The envelope storm returns. It started with a courier at the gate. Then came 3 certified letters. Then a knock at the door. When Cole opened it, a man in a tie handed him a thick envelope and said, "You've been served." Inside was a civil suit filed by the Rio Vista Homeowners Association, citing disturbance of residential peace, devaluation of surrounding property, environmental violations, unauthorized paramilitary activity. Total damages sought, $8 million. Cole laughed. Not because it was funny. But because it was insane. Emily's office goes into overdrive. When Emily read the lawsuit, she didn't laugh. She swore. "They're not trying to win this, Cole," she said. "They're trying to drown you in court costs. Motion after motion. Delay after delay. How long could this drag out?" "Years," she said. "If we don't counterattack now." She called in backup, a former Texas Supreme Court clerk, a constitutional law expert from Austin, and 2 attorneys from Red Hawk's own legal team. Together, they formed a legal blockade. "You held the line on the ranch," Emily told him. "Let us hold the line in court." Media goes wild. Once the lawsuit became public record, the media jumped on it like wolves on raw meat. Headlines exploded. HOA sues rancher for $8 million over gun range, ****. Texas standoff moves to the courtroom, ****. Freedom versus fines, the battle for Granger Ranch, ****. News trucks rolled past the Rio Vista front gate. Pundits debated the lawsuit live. Social media lit up with hashtags. Even a few senators weighed in. Cole received 300 letters from ranchers across the country offering support. One was from a Vietnam vet in Montana who wrote, "They tried to take my land in '78. I lost. I'm still paying. Don't let them win, son." Cole pinned that letter to his fridge. The discovery phase. In the lawsuit's discovery phase, Emily struck back hard. Her team subpoenaed internal HOA emails, development plans, noise complaint records, and minutes from every board meeting. What they found changed everything. In one private email, the HOA's vice president wrote, "If we drag this out, Granger will break. Everyone has a limit. Especially the loud ones." Another email listed a plan to leak false crime stats around the range to local news to shake investor confidence. That was fraud. And it was gold in court. The courtroom clash. The courtroom clash. The first day in court, Cole wore jeans and a tucked-in collared shirt. His boots were polished. His back was straight. The HOA came in like they owned the courthouse, 6 lawyers, 3 PR reps, and a board member with a Starbucks cup. The judge, an older, ex-military man with a silver mustache and zero tolerance for fluff, opened the session with a bang. "Let's not waste this court's time," he said. "You're suing this man for exercising his rights?" The HOA's lead lawyer tried to spin it. "We're concerned about the impact of unauthorized military-style activity on peaceful residential life." Emily stood up. "My client is a U.S. veteran, legally operating a licensed defense training center on land his family has owned for 3 generations. What they're calling military style is constitutionally protected." The judge nodded. And just like that, the tone changed. The deposition drama. During depositions, Cole sat quietly as HOA board members were forced to testify under oath. One accidentally admitted that they'd never conducted a noise test themselves. Another confessed the fines were based on preemptive compliance strategies, which meant they fined Cole before any violation occurred. The judge's eyebrows lifted. Preemptive fines? Are we in a sci-fi novel? The courtroom chuckled. But Cole didn't. Because for him, this wasn't fiction. It was his life. Countersuit, the real shocker. Emily didn't stop with defense. She filed a countersuit against the HOA for harassment, property devaluation, trespassing, defamation, and emotional damages. And she added something that made the board pale. Request for jury trial. Because in a place like Texas, no jury was going to side with a gated community over a rancher who just wanted to be left alone. The HOA's PR rep tried to get the trial moved to Austin. The judge denied it. "This stays right here," he said. "Where the land is real, and the people still know what barbed wire means." Jury selection. The jury was seated 2 weeks later. 12 citizens. 3 ranchers. 2 small business owners. 1 retired sheriff. 1 schoolteacher. 5 blue-collar workers from the surrounding counties. When asked if they had any experience with HOAs, 5 jurors raised their hands in anger. Cole sat back. He had a feeling this was going to end well. Final scene, stakes raised. One night, while Emily prepared for trial and Cole reviewed maps of future training lanes, a local radio station aired a call-in segment. A man's voice came on. "This isn't just about one rancher and one HOA. This is about who controls America, the builders or the buyers. The ones who live by the land, or those who want to pave over it." Cole turned the radio off. Then stepped outside into the moonlight. The range lights glowed in the distance. Flags fluttered above. Boone stood by the door, watchful. They tried to sue him into silence.